Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer. Today, my name is Dave Woodrelli. I am joined by Harman Dial. We're going to be joined by Stephen Ellis, Daily Faceoff's prospect expert. He's going to join us in a few moments here. It's going to be a big show. We're going to talk about Quinn Hughes and more specifically how to nail a Quinn Hughes trade. We've got some World Junior stuff that we're going to talk about with Steven. It's going to be a good time. Chat's bumping early. Chat is already getting their Quinn Hughes trade packages in. So I think we're going to have some fun today. If you want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, then hit us with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Anything on your mind, Harm? Anything you really want to get to?
I think we can go straight to Steven because I'm fired up to talk to him. That's the biggest thing on my mind.
Likewise. Usually we've got like a game to talk about. We've got some Canucks practice notes. We'll get to those. I think we'll save them for anyone else. And some of them, believe it or not, one of the things we're going to talk about from today's practice is relevant for our Hughes segment, which we'll get to a bit later. But let's bring him in. Stephen Ellis joins the show now. He is the prospect expert over at Daily Faceoff. Stephen, I'll tell you this right now because we're talking about a Quinn Hughes trade today, and that's not what I want to talk about with you right off the top. But my process for any trade talks is going to look at your prospect rankings over at Daily Faceoff. You did each team's prospect pool. You do such a tremendous job over at DFO. I'm not telling you anything new, obviously, but that process, like, what does that actually look like for you, just putting that together?
It's from watching a lot of games throughout the year, taking notes, kind of who's improved, who hasn't, then talking to people kind of in each market to find out what they like about certain guys and things like that. And you're trying to find like who's got the most upside because there's some players that are closer to being an NHL player than others. But there's, for the most part, you're looking for guys who are actually going to be impactful guys. So sometimes you'll see players that are ranked lower that might score a lot in junior, but if they're not a goal scorer in junior, they might not be a good NHL player. And then you're kind of looking and saying, okay, well, maybe this guy who blocks a ton of shots, puts up 15 points a season, but is good defensively is way more valuable. So it's trying to be able to kind of match that. And it's fun because especially in the summer when there's not much going on, it's kind of fun to just look through every single team's pipeline and see what they're doing.
All right, well, the Canucks top prospect. It's the big question on everyone's mind. Braden Coots, you had him on the fourth line wing in your recent lineup preview of Team Canada's World Junior team. I've seen him out of the lineup on others' projections. Why did you have him in the lineup? Like, what to you is going to be the reason that he should be on the team? And obviously, he made the initial camp roster. Do you think he's going to make this team as well?
Yeah, I would be shocked if they didn't. They're only going to be cutting one player from this team up front, so the odds of that are pretty good. He'll make it. I think with him, it's the fact that he could do so many things, with be on the penalty kill. He could forecheck hard. Like on the fourth line, it feels like he's going to be like built for success here. And let's say he plays with Jet Luchenko, a Flyers prospect. He's more of that two-way player. Well, if you have him as your center and you got Coots as your guy chasing after everybody and knocking players down and making things happen that way, that's a very valuable 1-2 duo there. So I like the way he drives the play. I had him before flying because they just got a lot of scoring depth to work with. But I felt like from the get-go, he was going to make this team. I should say get-go being once he made the NHL, that his NHL experience was going to make it a lock for this. Because if you asked me in the summer and I put together an early World Junior look, like Coots was not on my radar. And most of the people I had talked to said the same thing. And they're like, oh yeah, if he makes it, it'll be next year. But for him to just have that camp he did, make the team. Obviously the Canucks are not a great team. I know that's shocking news to you guys right now. And he probably wouldn't have made a lot of other teams. But still, I think the fact he got that NHL experience, got to learn from the coaching staff, got to learn from NHL players, Hockey Canada sees that as a real value add. So he was more of a bubble guy from what I was told, but I think he won't be the guy that gets cut from this team.
Big picture, when you look at the state of the Canucks under 23 pipeline, I think for fans, it's easy to focus in on your guys specifically. Tom Verlander's had a good start in the NHL so far, still monitoring the progress of DPD and some of the other guys in the system. it's always interesting to chat with a guy like you because you've got a national lens and can contextualize where Vancouver's under 23 system profiles compared to other systems around the NHL. How do you rate the Canucks under 23 pipeline compared to most other teams in the NHL?
It's like mid-pack at best, right? This team doesn't have a ton of depth going for them right now. You're looking at guys like Lekkerimaki. You want him to be able to do some great stuff. Tom Wielander, we know what he's capable of. Coots is obviously in that conversation. I do like Medvedev, the goalie they drafted out of London last year, but it's not deep after that. And that's the thing for a team that hasn't been really pushing much in the Stanley Cup contention window. They have not really built up a really good prospect pool. And I think that you go back and the pick of Klimovich a couple years ago was one that made absolutely zero sense to me. And I've talked about this on this show before.
Oh, yes.
It's not new information. That to me set them back for no reason at all. I don't get why they made that selection. Like, he had a really good show at the under 18s that year. Yes, he did. He was also the only guy on Belarus who could score. I also don't think he had a single point at 5-on-5. All his goals were coming on the power play. And I think when you look at that, you kind of see what happens there. So that really hurt their prospect pool. But overall, I think you've got some guys, the Swiss defenseman, Sansones, if that's even how you pronounce his last name. I think he's actually going to be an impactful player for Switzerland at the World Juniors this year. I think that Wilson Bjork, I liked what we saw him at the summer tournament. I don't think he's going to have a huge role in the Swedish World Junior team. But beyond that, there's just not a lot to get excited about.
My next question for you, I know how you're going to answer one of them, but it was going to be, what Canucks prospect, when you look back, are you like, I was absolutely right about him? And which one do you look at on the other side and say, oh, you know what? He turned out to be something bigger or better than I thought he was going to be. I know your answer for, which one was I right about. You couldn't have been more right about Klimovich. I think he's got like 5 points in 23 games on a bad Abbotsford team this year. So you couldn't have been more right about Klimovich. Obviously, we'll give you that one. You don't need to answer that part. But is there anybody that you didn't like at first that has turned into something more?
That's a good one. I didn't like Medvedev the first couple times I watched him play in the OHL, but he's basically by the end of his draft year, I was pretty excited about him. That's a good question.
Steven just doesn't miss.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I know you were also high on like Lekkerimaki as well. I remember we had you on the show, and so the answer you can say I haven't missed on anyone.
Put it this way: since I've started doing these, the Canucks haven't had really exciting prospect pools to get too excited about. So I think Lekkerimaki, man, I'm still waiting for him to just have that big explosion. But like watching him at all those, like even the Swedish Tier 2 league where he was putting up outstanding numbers in the playoffs that one year, it's like when he's confident, he's so tough to beat. And I just want that confidence to be there because he had so much of it at the junior level.
Steve, I want to ask you about the top of the 2026 NHL draft class because, as I'm sure you know, the Canucks are currently in the basement of the NHL standings. We know that Gavin McKenna is the likely number one pick, although that his status is up in the air right now. Besides McKenna, who I think most fans are already familiar with, who at the top in, let's say, that top 5-6 range would you be most excited about if you're a Canucks fan is, hey, if we could somehow get a top 3 pick and nab that guy, that would be such a game changer for the future of this franchise.
If the Canucks were to get rid of some specific defenseman that continues to be in all the trade rumors, Tyler Myers, of course. But I know the one defenseman I'm looking forward to here is Keaton Verhoff, who's 6'4", but he's still very raw. He's playing in the NCAA this year, but he's only been a defenseman for my understanding for about 5 years. He was a goaltender before that. You don't see a lot of guys at like 11 or 12 go from goalie to defense, but he so far in college, and he should be probably on Canada's third pairing at this tournament, only because of Harrison Brunick and Zane Parekh come back. If they both didn't come back, like Verhoff would have been a 17-year-old top pairing defenseman at the World Juniors, just like we saw with Matthew Schaefer last year. I like Ivar Stenberg. He's just absolutely dominating the Swedish Hockey League. kind of the gold standard for draft eligible prospects out of that league, where Daniel and Henrik Sedin and Ivor Stenberg's about to do significantly more damage than both those guys in the full season so far. So loving what he's doing. A lot of people are talking about Chase Reed, an American defenseman playing in the OHL. He's looking good. I really like what we're seeing out of Tynan Lawrence. He's healthy. He's playing really well in the USHL. I did see a draft list that had him at number 1 today. Can't say I agree there, but he is the top center in the draft. And I think a lot of teams are going to say, like, if that's our need, we're not hesitating one bit to take a guy like him. So this is a very strong top of the draft class. I'd say it does fall off at the end of the first round. If people say this is a deep draft, they are lying to you, but the top 10 is very good at least.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up and ask about how this top 5 or 6 compares to top 5 or 6 range of players in previous years, because some years you're just loaded where you get the 2023 class where it's Bedard, it's Carlson, it's Fantilli, on and on. Other years, the top 5, it's a little bit softer, and you have good players who are going to need quite a bit of time. You know, some years you get the Owen Powers, you get the Quinton Byfields, the Lexi Lafrenières. How would you rate the top of this year's draft class?
It's definitely one of the better ones we've seen in recent years. And I think there's just so many different avenues of where you can go there. You've got the big defenseman of Verhoff. You've got the absolute pure skill of Gavin McKenna. You've got the offensive dominance of Ivor Stenberg. You've got the massive 6'5", 230 pounds of Ethan Belchitz, who is just a total psycho out there in all the good ways for a hockey team. And then you throw in Chase Reed, Ryan Lynn, Xavier Villeneuve. Like, there's a lot of competition of Tynan Lawrence, a lot of competition for that top 5. It feels like more this year. Like last year or even the year before, it feels like you had to really justify why someone should be in the top 5. This year, it's like it's going to be a death match to be in that top 5. So this is a good year to draft that high, 100%. So when based off of the Canucks lines we saw today with that center depth, just keep rolling that, guys. Just don't even try. Just do what you're doing.
Hey, speaking of centers, Caleb Malholtra. Obviously we know his dad. He's been on this show a lot, and he played some BCHL. Caleb Malholtra did. He's having a pretty solid start to the year. What can you tell us about Caleb Malholtra? People in the chat are calling that he's going to go top 10. What are you saying about him?
I don't think he's a top 10 prospect, but I think he will go in the top 10 because teams are looking for centers who are smart and hit hard, and that's what he does. Like watching him up close with Brantford, that guy does so much. He's another one of those players who entering the season was like, all right, let's see what he could do with a new opportunity. He was playing in the BCHL last year and was good. Not great, just good. But watching him in the OHL, he's very, very good. They're a really good team there, but there's a lot of nights where watching Malholtra, he's better than guys like Jake O'Brien or Jet Luchenko, like guys who are older who've got some big game experience already. So watching him go out there every night, be this great passer, great at faceoffs, unsurprisingly, it's really good to watch him do what he's doing. So I expect him to go in the top 10. I don't know if I would consider him a top 10 prospect right now, but he's definitely very close. And I do feel like he'll at least be drafted there.
We're in an interesting era of the NHL where, because of the explosive growth of the salary cap, which we're only in the early innings of, I've had conversations with other NHL GMs, executives, and because of the difficulty of acquiring impact players on the trade market and in free agency, because teams can now afford to just keep all their good players, there is a sense that the drafting and developing your own homegrown talent was always important, but that it's going to be even more essential moving forward. With that in mind, I was thinking about the Canucks as they enter this next team building phase where in some capacity they're trying to get younger. And I was thinking to myself, if you're a big market Canadian team like the Canucks, there's no limit on how much you can invest in scouting and just research and development into the amateur scouting side where the draft, because it's so difficult to project where 17 and 18-year-olds are going to, like, how good they're going to be when they're 25, 26 years old in the NHL. There's still a lot of inefficiencies to potentially exploit there. You still see lots of teams missing at the draft table. If I'm a team like the Canucks, I'd be going with how important drafting and developing is going to be. There's no salary cap on how much you can spend on your scouting department and into drafting and developing. I would be pouring millions and millions into that and trying to turn that into my advantage. just broadly speaking, are other NHL teams thinking in this way? And if an organization like the Canucks did take that kind of approach, would it be feasible for them to turn that into an edge if they just invested more financial resources?
The one team that's always interested me from a scouting perspective is the Carolina Hurricanes, because that's a team that always seems to swing really high on value. Like, you look at guys like Bradley Nadeau, I thought they got really good value out of him, and he's looked really good. There was Scott Morrow, who they have since traded, but they went out and got Keandre Miller, and I thought that was a really good move for them. And they've drafted a lot of guys out of Europe where they're looking at players who might have had one big flaw, might not be a great skater, might struggle with some defensive coverage things, but those are things that can be fixed. And then the Hurricanes are like, all right, we'll take a chance on that. And I feel like that's one where, especially on their European drafting side, like, they draft a lot of players out of Russia and Sweden and Finland for a reason. They spend a lot of resources to make sure they're going out there and and finding those gems. And I think scouting as a whole, like video scouting, has gotten a lot better. A lot of good programs like platforms like Instat that will let you go out there and basically watch shift by shift every single stat you're looking for in these players. Like, it feels like you're still getting a lot of really good data, and the teams that invest in things like that are the ones, every team is investing in that, but the teams that spend a lot of time doing that extra video work are benefiting, especially when you're trying to look for guys out of Russia where it's much harder to get scouts out there. So I think, like a team like Hurricanes are one where they never draft high. They're always kind of in that playoff conversation, but they always get players that you're like, oh, like that could be a good trade chip. Those could be guys that could be very valuable. And they traded a few of those guys to get Jake Ensel when they did that. But they got to go out there and actually start winning games. And they need to also turn these prospects into something. So we're still waiting for those results to work out. But that's one where I look at and say, it feels like they are just getting scouting right for the most part.
Before we let you go, I wanted to ask you about the Devils system, because, of course, a lot of trade noise these days about Quinn Hughes and potentially the New Jersey Devils. Specifically, I wanted to ask you about Anton Siliev, recent top 10 draft pick, just a massive hulking defensive defenseman. If the Canucks were to listen to offers from New Jersey on Quinn Hughes, put into perspective how good of a prospect Siliev is, what his potential is, and whether he's a piece that you would be really excited about targeting if you're the Canucks.
Gee, why would the Devils want a Hughes brother? I'm not sure about that one. So when you look at Siliev, he's massive. He's 6'7". He's actually very mobile. And when he started in the KHL, he was like unstoppable with the puck. But then he fell off a cliff, and that was kind of what was to be expected. Like, when he got a bunch of points early on his KHL career, it's like 4 points in 4 games. Like, whoa, that's awesome. But that was never his game. Like, this year, he's only got 1 point. Watching some games in that team, it's not entirely his fault. When it comes to Russians, you always hear about the Russian factor, right? But that's not really a thing anymore. There's more of a concern about college players bailing and not signing than Russian guys. It's more about how these players are getting their ice time. We were seeing Siliev playing close to 20 minutes a night sometimes in his draft year. He's playing like 11, like 12, 13 minutes a night this year. And that's not necessarily because he's playing bad. It's because Russian teams just have this thing where if you are expected to leave, and we do expect Siliev to come over from the KHL in the spring, you kind of get punished for it. Ivan Demidov was a perfect example. Top scorer on his KHL team last year, was like a healthy scratch at points. He was on the 4th line. Like, it made no sense for a guy who ended up being their most productive player on a team that had a lot of good players too. So I think with Siliev, you got to look at him, not a ton of stat and the points, but he's going to be one of the better shutdown guys. He's kind of like a Jonas Siegenthaler in the way that he's just going to make sure he's going to stick where it needs to be. He'll block shots, difficult to play against, and I think that works really well in his favor. So, I feel like he is a guy you get interested in. I don't see the Canucks winning a trade involving Quinn Hughes, and I think that's kind of to be expected. You just don't win trades in the salary cap era when it involves a big star player like that. But you want to go out there and find those future pieces. And Siliev in my opinion, would become the Canucks' best defensive prospect. So that would be a guy you get excited about.
Is he like a Nikita Zadorov 2.0? Is he physical like that, or does that meanness, nastiness not come naturally to him?
He's not a nasty dude. Watching a lot of his penalties, it's because he's just bigger than someone else. Like he's not going out there. Like his mobility is what really kind of like catches opponents off guard because he moves so well. Like his skating is probably the biggest strength of his game. And yeah, he can knock guys down. He's got that size, but he's like, and he was compared to Zadorov in his draft year, but I feel like that nastiness just doesn't happen often. It's more of, I'm going to beat you with my great reach. I'm going to outskate you, outwork you, and make your life difficult. That's kind of where it feels like he's the most valuable.
Sounds like you're describing Tyler Myers, like draft year Tyler Myers.
With less offense. Could have been so good, right? He could have been great.
Oh man. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions in the chat for you, Steven. So yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate you taking the time. We'll be chatting with you, I'm sure, lots as we get closer to draft season. Hey, give me one team before we let you go, Steven. One team that you don't want to see get the first overall pick. Because we've been doing the tankathon at times on this show, and it's awful every time. It's Florida jumps up to number one, or one of these teams that we don't want to see. Who's your team that you don't want to see get the first overall pick?
Hot take, Seattle. I don't know if that would be marketed. It feels like Seattle's hockey players just don't get national reach.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick, Seattle. Yeah, I'm gonna hit the lottery right now. Nashville got it, St. Louis. Oh.
Like Nashville would be fine because Nashville, I think, has got a great fan base. Vancouver, obviously, would be fun. Calgary, I think, I know Mike Gold wrote an article why they deserve him the most, deserve the first pick the most. Hey, how about Buffalo?
Yeah.
Eventually, it's got to work for them, right?
Yeah. Just keep getting those first round picks.
It eventually worked for the Oilers, sort of.
Steven, thank you for doing this, man. We appreciate it. We look forward to reading your work, and we'll chat with you soon.
Thanks so much.
There he is, Steven Ellis. Read his work over at dailyfaceoff.com. Best prospects guy in the game, if you ask me. So yeah, glad to talk to Steven. Any takeaways from that conversation that you wanted to get into, Harm? I'll be honest, what's his name? Siliev or whatever, right?
Yeah, I may not have pronounced it perfectly, but
everyone in the chat was like, oh, Quad's favorite player. Dude, I need size and some meanness. I don't like that. Toward the end there, that description of, oh, he skates. I don't care. Everybody can skate.
Just show him Nikita Zadorov 2024 playoffs highlights.
The old Triumphant with Pronger. Yeah, you're going to be chasing Zadorov for a long time, man. Hurts the heart. Should have never let that guy go.
Yeah, the more that you realize the Canucks are screwed anyway, man, it would be fun to just have Zadorov here for the entertainment factor.
Rajcraft, he's no Riley Tuft in the chat. All right, you ready to get to some Hughes talk?
Let's do it.
All right, our next segment, which we didn't really want to do, but we have to. We've put it off long enough. It's brought to you by Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. Come join us on December 20th for Vancouver versus Boston. Speaking of Nikita Zadorov, we're going to have a watch party. Wear your Christmas sweater. It's going to be super fun. Text 604-256-4022. That number again, 604-256-4022. to reserve your spot for the watch party. We cannot wait to have you there. It's going to be a really fun time. Our last watch party was an absolute banger. It was so much fun. They've all actually, we haven't had a dud. The last dud watch party we had was, I think they were playing, it was either Edmonton or Colorado, and they just got absolutely dummied, and it was like a 6-1 loss. I can't remember what it was. But anyways, that was a while ago. So we're going to have a really good time. It was the Jets maybe? I don't know. Anyways, we're going to have a really good time. This is going to be a really fun one. Come hang out with us December 20th. Let's call it the Canucks Army Christmas party. You're going to have a good time. Come hang out with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. That number again, pull it up again, Jacob. 604-256-4022.
Yeah, there you go.
Reserve your spot. All right, Harm. How do the Canucks nail a Quinn Hughes trade? Now, I'm saying this off the top, so we only have to say it once, okay? So if you're late joining, anybody who's giving us crap in the chat, I'm expecting everybody else who's in the chat that was here for the start, okay? Make sure that you give them crap and tell them to rewind, because we're saying this right off the top. All this talk is because there's rumors about it right now, and we have a clip from Adam Foote that we're going to play as well. It's rumors right now, and we have to talk about it, and it only comes with the idea that the Canucks have basically been told that Quinn doesn't want to stay. So let's say that they're not going to trade Quinn Hughes if he wants to stay in Vancouver. Okay, so if you're coming in the chat being like, well, Quinn wants to stay. Okay, great. Well, if the Canucks don't feel that way, then they're going to trade him. So let's just park that and make sure that's clear right off the top. And right off the top, before we dive into it, let's hear what Adam Foote had to say at practice today. He was asked about the noise surrounding Quinn Hughes. This is what the Canucks head coach had to say.
When I've been around things like that, you're not talking about it. You're not, you're trying not to think about it, but it's there. And you can feel it certain days more than others. I can feel it certain days more than others. And these guys are human. They can feel it. It can affect, for sure, a locker room. I have to give the guys credit. Like, they're in a tough spot hearing the noise. And they keep coming to work every day and keep doing their job, and they're pros. That's what they're supposed to do. But to answer your question, they can hear it, and it probably affects some players more than others. But like I said, I give them a lot of credit for the way they handle it, coming to work, try to win hockey games, and do their job.
So some more honesty from Adam Foote, but it's being asked about. The head coach is admitting that it's working its way into the room and that it's tough and all that sort of stuff. So before you come at us being like, why are you even talking about it? That's why. Okay. That's why. Did you have any reaction that you wanted to say about what Foote had to say?
I like that he's being honest rather than plugging his ears, going la, 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 and pretending as if this isn't impacting his players. Let's be real. Even the players that aren't directly on, let's say, Twitter, they hear these rumors. They have family members that send them stuff. Every player in that locker room is aware of, all right, there's speculation around the future of our captain. There's a lot of uncertainty about that. Of course, it's going to be in the back of your mind as a player. And like Foote said, credit to the players so far, where it hasn't affected their work rate. It hasn't affected their professionalism. And hopefully that continues. But if Foote came out there and said, we're just blocking out the noise, it doesn't affect us in the locker room, like a lot of coaches do when these sorts of things crop up. No, like when it's a story of this magnitude, when it's a best defenseman in franchise history, when it's a superstar, top 10 player in the NHL, when it's your captain, of course, it's going to affect some players.
I'm just glad it wasn't that's you guys, it's the media, blah, 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 which is what obviously we're going to hear from people. But I'm glad it wasn't that answer, because those are always my favorite defenses. And we've heard it a few times in recent years of like, oh, well, we're not thinking about that. We're not talking about that. Like, if you guys are saying that, then whatever. And then the follow-up is, actually, it was Jim that said it. And they're like, oh, I think that happened to Bruce and it happened to Connor Garland. But yeah, it's important at least to mention and give some context of why we're even talking about a Quinn Hughes trade in the first place. So if it happens, we got a super chat here. Spatzilli said, if Quinn is gone this year, does he really register in our history? No playoff success or notable moments, just a lot of points and individual skills. That'll be a good way to close this out, Jacob. So write that down for anyone else. We'll kick off anyone else kind of diving into that. I'm curious what other people think of that as well. But let's go here. When I ask you the question, Harm, how do the Canucks nail a Quinn Hughes trade? What comes to mind? Because for me, it is make sure you walk away with something. I saw, and there was someone in the chat that was throwing together a trade package for the Flyers, and it was a whole lot of nothing, if you ask me. It was a lot of there was some middle six guys, 2 first-round picks. There's obviously going to be first-round picks involved, but yeah, I can't remember where it went, but I don't know. I didn't like that trade package. And basically what I'm saying is don't get a bunch of pieces. Don't go get an Anthony Beauvillier in this trade. You know what I mean?
Quality
Like,
over quantity.
exactly. That's it.
And that was going to be my first point is quality over quantity matters to me. If the Canucks get to a point where they have to trade Quinn Hughes, I would way rather have 2 to 3 great assets in return rather than 4 to 5 good pieces. And to me, the most important chip to nail is you have to land a premium blue chip young guy with star upside. And when I mean star upside, I'm talking about a player that realistically projects as a future first line forward or top pair defenseman. Anything less than that, I don't think would be good enough for the centerpiece of a Quinn Hughes trade package. Marco Kasper, for example, right? There have been some rumors that, I mean, even going back to Kasper's draft year, that the Canucks were high on him. To me, Marco Kasper, even though he's a good young player, would not be good enough as the centerpiece for a Quinn Hughes trade return because realistically, he tops out as if he hits a second line center.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have the ceiling to be a first line player in the future. So to me, that's not good enough. And this is where, as a follow-up, to me, the position shouldn't matter. Just chase as your centerpiece a player with the highest upside possible. If it's a winger, go get the winger. If it's a defenseman, go get the defenseman. And that's why if we're talking about the context of the Detroit Red Wings, for example, to me, the guy would be Simone Edvinsson because he's already a good top 4 defenseman. And when you look at his tools, how massive he is, the way he skates, the way he handles the puck, some of his secondary offensive upside, I look at that and look at that guy and go, oh yeah, he could absolutely be a top pair defenseman. He could be a stud on your blue line as part of your top pair for a really, really long time. I wouldn't want Kasper just because, oh, he's a center and could slot in right away. That's one of my, in the back of my mind, that's one of the worries when we discuss a Quinn Hughes trade is you hear, for example, Chris Johnston during his hit with TSN on TV a couple of days ago, where he mentioned that the Canucks, that there is some pressure to stay competitive. Or I believe it was, I saw a transcription of Darren Dreger's hit with Sekeres Price today, where Dreger mentioned that if the Canucks are dealing Quinn now, they want a piece that can help them stay competitive, which just sounds like complete nonsense to me. Complete nonsense. And that's where, like, don't go trade for an NHL ready center just because you want a guy to plug in as your 2C now, right? Don't make Kasper your primary target just because you think, oh, he could plug in right away. And yeah, he's going to be a long-term fit, but also extra boost because of the short-term competitiveness. Do not do that by any means. I will bash my head against the wall if that's the approach that this franchise takes.
Now, people are asking, is there a comparable trade that you'd like that you look at and say, this is what you want for Quinn Hughes, right? Like, is there a comparable out there? And you look at recent star players, it's Mikko Rantanen and it's Matthew Tkachuk. We've had the Tkachuk conversation before where we said the Canucks cannot go get 3 win now pieces, right? And there was a first in that deal as well, if memory serves. It was Uyghur, Huberdeau, and a first, I believe, was the full trade package, and maybe something else thrown in.
Yeah, I think there was like a thrown prospect on top of
it. Sure. So you can't do that. Like, you can't go get 2 win now pieces and then a first and be like, look, we have a first, which they might also flip for another win now piece for knowing this front office. But you can't do that. I think we agree on that. But no, I don't think there's really a deal that you look at and say that's a comparable. Again, Mikko Rantanen gets traded for the second time for Stankoven and 2 first-round picks, was it?
Yeah.
Do that and then add more because Rantanen, of course, was a UFA. Obviously, it came with other stuff involved in that. But when it comes to a Hughes trade right now, like, I look at that as a starting point. I think you need the equivalent of 4 or 5 first-round picks. Obviously, I'm including Stankoven with how he's produced as the 3rd first-round pick in that deal. So again, if you get a under 23 player that's going to play, that is going to play for you, you get 2 first-round picks, and then you go get another prospect, or I wouldn't even take another pick, another young prospect, this time a guy like 19 or under. I think that's kind of how I'm looking, and maybe even two of them.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And look, part of it also depends on if the centerpiece ends up being a really, really good player, then you may, and this is where it's, again, quality over quantity. Maybe you don't get as many volume pieces, but that's okay. And I'll give you the example, right? There's been some speculation around, could the Washington Capitals be in on Quinn Hughes? And to me, the Capitals would be an exciting team from the Canucks perspective because they are loaded with under 23 talent that appeals to me. And for me, I would want Ryan Leonard as a centerpiece. If you could somehow get Ryan Leonard, that guy is going to be a star. I've watched him play this year. He's a 20-year-old rookie. He's got 18 points in 29 games. But when I watch him play, you just see all the speed, the dynamic skill, all the play driving elements that he looks more dangerous than even his point production shows, which if you're pacing at this rate already, he's already a top 6 forward. At 20 years old, there's still so much untapped upside in his game. I loved, even when he first turned pro, watching him down the stretch with Washington, where such a well-rounded player where he can be such a dynamo off the rush. His playmaking has grown a ton this year, but also he's a dog on the forecheck. He plays with a ton of energy. He's got bite to his game. Like, I feel so confident that he's going to be a first-line star. And it's only been recently, and now he's actually hurt and is going to be out for a few weeks, but it was only recently that he got power play 1 opportunities. So again, just emphasizing that he has looked so unreal for the Caps this year. I would want that guy as a centerpiece way more than I would want, let's say, a Marco Kasper as a centerpiece, or even a Simone Nemec as a centerpiece of a Quinn Hughes trade if the Canucks get to that point. And even just beyond that, Caps have a lot of other high-end prospects that are really interesting to me. So there's Alexi Protas, right, who broke out last year as a top line, just a unicorn of a player. He's 6'6", skates around pretty well. His hockey IQ is through the roof. The Caps have his younger brother, Ilya Protas, right? Because Alexi, they're not gonna trade, I would imagine. Ilya Protas, he's 19 years old. He was drafted in the 3rd round, but his stock has taken off just like his older brothers did, where as a 19-year-old in the AHL, he's a point per game. As a 19-year-old, point per game. So you're talking about a legit, blue chip prospect there. The Caps also have Cole Hudson, who's the younger brother of Lane. He continues ripping it up at BU. And now, to clarify, I don't think he has Lane Hudson type potential. I don't think his ceiling is that high, but you're still talking about close to an A-level prospect there. The Caps also have Andrew Crystal, who they drafted a couple of years ago, I want to say high in the 2nd round. He's a Vancouver kid. He had elite point production in WHL. The point being, the Caps system is deep, and if the speculation is true that they would be interested in Quinn Hughes, that would be, in my opinion, great news for the Canucks.
Ilya Protas is my new favorite prospect. Like, I was coming in here and I was going to tell you, I got some guys. 124 points in the OHL, 6'6". This is the guy. This is the guy. I agree with you, Harm. It's Protas or nothing.
Well, I would still go Ryan Leonard or nothing, but
I would go Protas over Ryan Leonard. Jacob, write it down. Protas has a better career than Ryan Leonard.
No.
Write it down.
Ryan Leonard is already a top 6 NHL forward, and he's only a year older. I love Ilya Protas. I don't want to come off as like, I'm down on Ilya Protas, but Ryan Leonard is special.
Ryan Leonard, OHL points 0, 124 for Ilya Protas. Do you think they'd actually trade Ryan Leonard, like, under any circumstances?
I don't know.
I would just say no. Like, I don't know. I don't think they would. Again,
maybe
because
he wouldn't, but he'd be the dream target.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And this is the other thing when we're talking about a Quinn Hughes trade, all this stuff that people say about like did you see the Flyers reporter, writer, whatever, being like, "Oh, I'm told the Flyers would not trade Porter Martone, Jet Luchenko," and just lists their like top 6 prospects. "Oh, I'm told they wouldn't part with him in a Quinn Hughes trade." It's like, okay, then they're not trading for Quinn Hughes. Like the Canucks can go elsewhere. This idea that, oh, untouchable. You're getting Quinn Hughes. You're getting Quinn
Yeah.
Hughes. Like, stop it. Stop this. So I would say Leonard maybe is the only guy. Like, if every team has one untouchable, I would assume Leonard is probably Washington's untouchable. But I don't know. Again, I don't know. You're right. I don't know.
And that's fine. Even if Leonard is off the table, I still think Washington has enough.
Yes.
It has enough other pieces that I would be excited about. I want to see how old Rasmus Sandin is. Okay, he's maybe a little bit older than I would prefer in a player. He's 25. Yeah, if Sandin was 23, maybe I'd say that would be perfect because he fits the. First of all, Washington probably wouldn't need Sandin as much because you have Quinn Hughes coming in on the left side, and Sandin has turned into a stud top 4 defenseman for the Capitals, like a really good second pair guy, and gets 25, a little bit older than I would prefer. So maybe not him, but they've still got they've got a surprisingly good farm system for a team that has stayed relevant in the playoff picture the last couple of years.
So if I asked you to give me a sleeper team for Quinn Hughes, like a team you'd like to see the Canucks trade for that isn't being talked about a lot right now, would you say Washington? Because like I haven't seen them be talked about a ton. Would you say Washington or do you have someone else? Because I've got Chicago as my sleeper team. Like I'm looking at that Blackhawks prospect pool. Again, I think there's something to be said about if you can get a team that might finish middle of the pack, lower in the standings, if you can get them to give you a first round pick for Quinn Hughes, unprotected, or like, oh, if this is a top 5 pick, a top 10 pick, then it goes to the next year. They might be bad again, right? What if they trade Quinn? Anyways, I'm going down a rabbit hole, but I think there's something to be said about if you can convince a kind of mid-tier, lower-tier team to make a Quinn Hughes trade, that also adds kind of an interesting little wrinkle in all of it. But I look at that Blackhawks prospect pool, and they come across to me as like a sleeper team. I want to talk about them, but do you have a team, like a sleeper team that you're looking at?
Yeah, I have no idea if they'd actually be interested, but just I'm trying to think things through logically. I wonder about the Utah Mammoth. Utah has a ton of assets. They have an owner that is willing to invest. Utah's been aggressive 2 off seasons in a row to try and take that next step, where this past summer they went out and made that splash for JJ Peterka. The year previous, they went out and made that splash for Mikhail Sergachev and completely renovated their blue line. They still, I think, and they're on the fringe of the playoff race. They're without Logan Cooley. I wonder how motivated are they to hit the accelerator on their project. And of course, they have a really bright future coming up. But landing a Quinn Hughes, could that accelerate that process, make them a playoff team now? They'd have a ton of money to offer him on a potential extension in the summer if it got to that point. And they're loaded with young talent because they've drafted high in a lot of years. They got Tijik Ginla, they got Danil Butte, who you're gonna like hearing about this guy. He is also,
I know him.
Yeah, okay. 6'6", was the number 12 pick in 2023. Came over to North America this year, lit up the AHL, was around a point per game. Recently got called up. We saw him in the recent Utah game, immediately in their top 6, and hasn't produced a point yet in 40 games, but hasn't looked out of place. And it's not just, oh, he's 6'6". It's that guy's hands are incredible.
And he was mixing it up. He was crashing the crease, man.
Yeah, they got obviously Dmitry Simashev, who was a recent 6th overall pick as well on the blue line. They've got a lot of pieces. So that's a team where, again, I have no idea whether they would actually be all in or not, but I would at least wonder about them.
Are you ready to hear about Chicago?
Yeah.
Now, people in the chat, like Walk said, why would Chicago do it, though? It doesn't match their timeline. It's what you just brought up. Like, a lot of teams, these lower, kind of mid, how long have we been bad for? They're going to look at Quinn Hughes and say, like, okay, we're right on the cusp right now. Like, this, okay, here's what people need to understand, okay? The Canucks are dead last in the league with Quinn Hughes, okay? What do you think a team that has a bunch of young players coming up, that they're around the middle of the league right now, what do you think they're thinking when they get the idea of adding Quinn Hughes? Do you think they say, whoa, this guy's in his mid to late 20s. We cannot possibly add him to our team. No. They're trying to be competitive. If you have Quinn Hughes, you have a better chance of being competitive. Now, if you have young players around him and these players are only going to get better, then yeah, he does match your timeline. Like, I'm sorry, but Connor Bedard is your timeline. Connor Bedard is here. Connor Bedard is playing well. Frank Nazar, another guy, like he's already here. So Chicago, let me focus on them for a sec, all right? Sam Rinzel is a right-handed defenseman. Steven Ellis had him as the number 1 ranked prospect in the Blackhawks system. Played at least 20 minutes a night in every single game last year. Like, the dude is getting top 4 deployment, and he's doing a pretty damn good job of it. He's not gonna replace Quinn's point production, but he is a top 4 guy. Like, he's gonna be a 2-3 on your blue line. You have Philip Hronek, and then you have Sam Rinzel as your 1-2 on the right side. You're laughing, like you're happy. You have 2 really solid defense pairings just with those 2 guys manning your top 4 pairing. So I look at him as being a guy that could be part of it. There's some younger guys as well. Obviously, we've talked about Levshinov. I'm curious to get your thoughts on him. Steven has him ranked number 2. If memory serves, you really liked Levshinov, right?
No, I did not have a strong take on Levshinov one way or the other.
Okay, because he's also right-handed. He's actually put up more points than Rinzel. But again, they're not going to part with both of them.
I don't think.
Like,
I don't think they'd give up Levshinov.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're picking one. I think you'd probably take Rinzel. You'd probably take Rinzel because it means you can get more throughout the rest of it. Again, like, there's going to be untouchables. There's going to be untouchables, and I understand that. But, like, you know, Oliver Moore, Anton Frundell, those guys are in the system. Again, are they going to part with Anton Frundell right after drafting him? No, probably not. But again, we're talking about Quinn Hughes, so it is absolutely fair to talk about these top prospects. My broader point is that Chicago's got a lot of pieces. Not to mention they haven't pushed their chips in and traded their draft picks. Like, Chicago's got assets to make this trade.
They do have the assets. I don't know if they have the ambition to swing hard now. I think Kyle Davidson is really patient in wanting his young guys to come through the system. Where I look at this past summer, right? They had tons of cap space. They had all these assets. Now, part of it is that there weren't a ton of Marner level free agents that made it to July 1 anyway. But the Blackhawks didn't make a splash this summer. They didn't go out and get, despite all the pressure on them, they didn't get a high-end running mate for Connor Bedard to play with. They went out and got Andre Burakovsky as a cap dump from Seattle, and more or less just went, we're going to roll with our young guys. And if they take a step, we're going to take a step as a team. And if they don't, then that's that. I also wrote a piece earlier about a month ago around teams that have even more money coming off the books. The Blackhawks have a stupid amount of money that they have to spend next summer just to hit the cap floor.
Yeah.
And I had Scott Powers reach out to me after that piece just to provide context and say he doesn't anticipate Kyle Davidson taking a massive home run swing, because that's what I'd wondered in that article, is whether they were maybe next summer going to take a big swing, especially because they're off to a better than expected start this season. So you're right, they have the assets. I don't know if they're actually in a phase where they want to hit the accelerator. One other team that I brought up as hypothetical in the story I wrote on Sunday is the Carolina Hurricanes. The Carolina Hurricanes are always big game hunting, and I see some people saying, oh, they wouldn't want another Mikko Rantanen situation where they trade for a guy and he doesn't want to resign. I can tell you that the Carolina Hurricanes are pretty happy with how that turned out. And the key context for that is everybody talks about, oh, they gave up Martin Necas in that initial deal, and look how many points he's piling up in Colorado. I can tell you this. Marty Necas was not going to be a long-term fit in Carolina. He wasn't a fit for that system. He wasn't a fit under Rod Brindamore. I would have been shocked if they were going to re-sign Necas. I really think Necas was going to walk as an unrestricted free agent, and Necas only had one more year left on his deal compared to Mikko Rantanen. So they gave up essentially 18 months of Marty Necas in that initial deal and some other pieces to go out and get him. And then they recouped almost all of that value by getting Stankoven, who's now cost controlled long-term and has been playing 2C for them this year, fixed their 2C problem. And they got multiple of their first round picks, which they now have in their arsenal. So to say that, oh, they wouldn't want a repeat of the Rantanen situation. No, I think they're happy with how that turned out. And if anything, that proves to you that they will keep taking those big swings, especially because of the context of what I mentioned around, you could always flip Quinn Hughes at the 2027 trade deadline if you aren't able to extend him for 2 first-round picks and maybe a premium prospect on top of that. Think about it from Carolina's perspective. The Eastern Conference is wide open this year, right? Florida's been the block for them. The Florida Panthers without Barkov, we don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs. And even if they do, Barkov might not be around for the postseason. So the East is clear. There's a clear runway. If you add Quinn Hughes, you are the heavy favorite to get out of the Eastern Conference and make the Stanley Cup final. With Quinn Hughes as a game breaker to give that power play a jolt, to have another offensive game breaker, you're looking at a team that now has the best shot it's ever had in this contention window of winning a Stanley Cup. You could get Quinn Hughes for one playoff run. You could, as I mentioned earlier, Carolina's cap situation, look at how many they got. Aho locked up long-term, Slavin, Stankoven, Jackson Blake, Keandre Miller, Nick Ehlers. They got no other big contracts on the horizon. Their cap sheet is in immaculate position. So they can offer Quinn Hughes more guaranteed money if they own his rights this summer than like anybody else. They can offer him $20 million per year.
Or 6 years, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you could, like, theoretically, if the offer is $20 million a year and it's for, let's say, 8 years, that's $40 million more of guaranteed money than what he would get on July 1st, 2027. $40 million extra. So, and you talk about if Quinn's top priority, I know Carolina's in a sexy market as far as original 6 franchise or just being desirable, but if Quinn Hughes wants to win a Stanley Cup, man, they offer him such a bright window to win because of how young their core is as well, how many other pieces they have coming. That's a pretty enticing pitch. And then again, even if it doesn't work out, you at least got one playoff run out of him where maybe you already won a Stanley Cup, and then you can flip him that summer or at the deadline later. So I would expect a team like Carolina to poke around on Quinn Hughes, and they've got some interesting assets as well. Up front, they obviously have Jackson Blake and Logan Stankoven, a couple of young players that are breaking out or are already top 6 forwards. But the big piece that would be really interesting to me is Alexander Nikishin. Now, Nikishin, before he came over to North America this year, was touted as one of the best prospects in hockey, just like outside of the NHL. He has arrived now, and this is after, like, we're talking about a 6'3" defenseman who skates well, who was one of the KHL's highest scoring defensemen multiple years in a row. He's got a booming shot. He hits like a truck as well, right? You talk about the nastiness. I don't know how much of Carolina you've watched or how many highlights you've seen. That guy already blows guys up. Like in open ice. You're talking about such a unique player type that he's raw, don't get me wrong. He's still learning how to fully defend at the NHL level. But we're talking about a player that has the raw tools to be a top pair defenseman, maybe even a low end number one if everything breaks right. Just like the ceiling on him is so high, and like again, I don't know. Maybe the Canes view him as an untouchable because they think, oh, he's a future number one defenseman.
Yeah.
But he's also 24 years old, so it's not as if he has the longest development runway. But the point being, like Carolina has some interesting pieces that, and I would expect them to poke around on Quinn if he becomes available.
Let's conclude this segment by just kind of wrapping with an idea of, all right, for the Canucks to nail a Quinn Hughes trade, they need to get good quality over quantity. They can't do it for 3 win now pieces or 1. I don't want to see anyone in this trade whose age is 25 or higher. I don't want to see anyone in this trade coming back to Vancouver's 25 or higher. Pick a window and do it. Like, get it done.
Well,
keep the players young.
I would caution. So for example, earlier we were mentioning Rasmus Sandin. Now,
yeah.
I actually wouldn't be opposed to a situation where, not obviously as a primary piece, but if the Caps were as a secondary piece in that trade, saying, well, okay, we can offer you Rasmus Sandin. I don't think the Canucks necessarily go, oh, no, he's 25 years old. We don't want to touch him.
Sure.
Because Sandin would become a surplus on the left side where you already have Chychrun and then have Quinn Hughes. I would, in that scenario, say, fine, I'll take him. And then you can immediately flip that guy, a top 4 defenseman who can move the puck, and you can flip him for more futures. So like that's an important caveat. But yes, if we're talking about a Quinn Hughes trade and you're targeting assets that you would want to keep long-term, then yeah, don't go 25 or older. However, I wanted to also throw that
Kessler 2.0. Someone in the chat said that as well.
Yeah.
Anything else on Quinn Hughes?
Not for now.
All right. Good point. Not yet. But let's get to anyone else. I'm sure there's going to be something there. Let's get to anyone else, which is a presentation of our friends at Pacific Toyota Dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. You can drive 72 kilometers on battery alone, enough to get you from downtown to the rink, the grocery store, and home to recharge. You can seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower style with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. Plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in BC alone. And now you can lease a 2026 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $109 weekly at 3.99% APR for 64 months with $3,300 down. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. We'll get to the super chats from earlier. We'll start with that. Oh, it's about Quinn. Good. Spatzilli said, if Quinn is gone this year, does he really register in our history? No playoff success or notable moments, just a lot of points and individual skill. I'll say this, Harm. I know we talked about Quinn Hughes trades today. I'm not ready to do a Quinn Hughes legacy look back on Quinn's career. I'm not doing that today. So I'll just say this story's not over. And I think it depends, before I answer this properly, it depends how, like, if this gets ugly toward the end, right, then maybe fans are more upset with him. But I think right now, the dude's the best defenseman in franchise history. There's no denying that. You think about Pavel Bure, you think about Marcus Naslund, you talk about playoff success. Those guys are legends in this franchise, and I think Quinn deserves to be in that conversation as well, at least as of now. But I'm not ready to have that. Does Quinn register in their in the Canucks history? Of course he does right now.
Yeah, it's not his fault that Jim Benning
exactly
this front office now couldn't build a winner around him.
Yeah, and yeah. Anyways, yeah. I'm not reading that comment, but I like that one from Manure in the chat. That's a funny one. Revenge of the Sixth. How tall is Tyler Myers? I think he's like 6'9" on skates. Have you ever stood next to him when he's wearing skates?
Not while he's wearing skates. But in person,
how tall do you think he is without skates, Harm?
I think that was what the question was asking.
Yeah. Someone has to go. Harmon, can you check Hockey DB?
He's listed at 6'8" on HockeyDB.
Damn. All right.
I hate that meme. I cannot stand that meme. It's the dumbest thing ever. I hate it. I cannot wait for that trend to die. I hate the Jumbotron. The fact that around the Canucks are doing it. I've seen some NBA teams doing it. I cannot wait for this trend to die. It is the dumbest thing ever. I'm sorry.
Dude,
I just had to crash out.
I was with you. I was with you, dude. I was with you. I thought it was dumb. I was like, what are the youths doing? This is stupid. It's harmless fun.
Our generation had good memes, man. That actually had meaning.
That's the take I had too.
This is too lazy.
I said that on the show like couple months ago. It really pissed me off. But I don't know.
Normally I'm not like a cranky old man about this kind of stuff. But this is too far. This is
why I don't go to clubs, man. Everybody's 6'7" in there. I don't want to, the young people, man. I don't do that. Yeah. All right. I had one thing that I wanted to bring up. Oh yeah, I don't know if you saw this. The Kachuk brothers on their podcast talking about the Olympics. Did you see this?
Yeah,
and they were both like, "Yeah, we're going. We're going." And I think Brady was like, "I'll play on a lake." I also like that they've naturally gone into a podcast routine of like, whatever Matthew says, Brady's just gonna say the same thing, or he's gonna say it louder. Sometimes that's my lean back approach. If I'm not having the best day on the pod, I'm just like, well, I know Harmon's gonna say something cool, so I'll just repeat what he says. Anyways, it's a good trick, kids. If you're out there starting your own podcast, get yourself a good host, good co-host. But in all seriousness, yeah, they sounded very, very adamant. And again, it comes on the heels of Bill Daly saying that none of the issues seem insurmountable. So good news. Looks like NHL players are going to go to the Olympics.
Yeah, it's not 100% confirmed yet. I still think the article that Pierre LeBrun and Chris Johnson wrote at The Athletic didn't make it sound 100% certain. They're at the BOG meetings, and it's not 100% confirmed. But yeah, I mean, I'm not overly worried about it, but let's not say, oh, they are 100% for certain gonna play there.
That's fair. That's fair. Players sound like they want to go. We'll see. Matt Friesen in the chat said, Harmon, your generation started the whole Tide Pods thing. Our generation's the reason claim that Tide Pods say not for consumption.
That was really dumb.
Yes, it was. We've done dumb stuff.
But I didn't condone that. I didn't condone that. And let's be honest, the Tide Pod thing wasn't nearly as big as 6'7" has become.
No, of course not. Of course not. But like I said, it's kind of harmless fun. I didn't like a whole theme night. The Panthers did a 6-7 night. What are we doing?
No.
Did you see that? And then the final score was 7-6 for the Panthers. And then, did you not see any of this? Sam Bennett was on the bench post game and did the thing, the hand thing. I'm gonna rot your brain.
I can't wait for this.
I'm gonna send that to you as soon as we're off the show. Oh, that's good. Jacob, you're kind of our resident old man, even though you're only a couple of years older than us.
But our resident old man. That's crazy.
How do you
coming from quads? I don't take that as a compliment.
How do you feel about this?
It's whatever. Like it's blown up bigger than any like meme from my generation ever did, but like it's also harmless. There's so many worse things that could be this popular, so it is what it is.
How did you consume memes when you were a kid?
Me?
The town bulletin board?
Town bulletin board, yeah. My friends and I would draw them on sticky notes and exchange them.
For those I wonder, Jacob's like 2 years older than Harmon.
Do you think kids in, let's say, elementary school still pass notes?
For sure.
Really?
Or do they just text? Do they all have phones and just text?
They don't all have phones.
I think a lot of them do.
Although a lot of schools are like getting stricter with no phone policies. So maybe
best thing, yeah.
Maybe notes might make a comeback. I think that could happen.
Now I'll say this. I wrote I wrote yesterday on Daily Faceoff about AI and how it's making everyone stupider, but especially sports fans, like, stop using it for stat retrievals. You're getting the wrong stats almost 70% of the time. It's not just you got to learn how to use AI. If you want to use AI, learn how to use it properly, and you're gonna have to fact check it anyway. So for sports, don't use it. Don't use it to generate content. I can't believe I'm saying that. If you're a sports outlet in Canada writing news articles about Logan Cooley, maybe don't use AI for that. Just a hunch. Because then it turns into this vicious cycle. I wrote about it. You can go read it, dailyfaceoff.com. But what I will say, I had a section in there that didn't make the final cut that I took out of the article in the end. But I was talking to some like teacher friends of mine, and one thing I noted is that I've seen a lot of not kids, but like recent high school grads that want to be in sports journalism, and I always try to pass it on, carry on the tradition of like, older guys helped me when I was breaking into the business, so I always offer advice. And like the biggest piece of advice I've given people recently is like, learn to write. Like, you don't know how to write. You don't know how to make a story. You just write. You write. You're writing like what AI would be able to write. And I'm not saying that every kid out there is using AI. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Obviously, pandemic. Like, we're not going to get into all of it right now. But what I will say is like, there was a 2-3 year stretch where AI started, and it also started around the pandemic. Don't forget that either, right? When a lot of school was online and whatnot. There was a stretch where I had friends, like, I was going to become I've talked about this before. I was going to be a high school English teacher. Like, that was my goal out of high school. That's what I wanted to do. And I have friends who did pursue that career, and they're now teachers. And there was like a 2-3 year stretch where they like knew that their students' work was being done by AI. And they were just like, and I just can't really prove it. Like, I know, I have a hunch. And you would talk to them and they'd be like, no, it wasn't. And there was only so much they could do, is basically what I was hearing. And the school districts now have there's no phones in classes. And I'm going off the Burnaby School District mostly is what I'm talking about, but there's no phones in classes anymore. Like, you can't have your phone out during class time, which is great. Like, my generation, I had my phone out all the time, right? But no phones, and like, there's no take-home writing assignments anymore. Like, English teachers are just saying like, nope, we're using class time now for writing about writing your assignments. And now what's shifted is like, the homework is now in the stuff that we would learn in class. That's what you go do at home. You go watch slides at home, and you go learn the stuff at home, and then you better come to class prepared to write an essay, because we can't trust you to do it from home. So, you know what? I must say, like, I'm hopeful that this is a quick little blip that we just kind of look back on and say like, wow, remember when everyone, these kids came out of high school and were significantly dumber than we were, like, they're writing at a 9th grade level. Remember that? I hope we can just kind of look back on that and say like, yeah, I'm glad that's over. But it's concerning to me. It's concerning. And no one reads for pleasure. I've talked about that. That's important.
Yeah, AI is a whole different can of worms. It's scary and opens up endless possibilities at the same time moving forward.
Yeah. See, Rajcraft saying it's only going to get worse. I'm looking more positive. I don't know about that. I don't know if it's going to get worse.
Have you heard that a lot of these AI execs have had to, especially as it relates to AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, the next step, which I think is predicted to be out, and a lot of people predict that we could see it by like 2030. A lot of these founders have predicted that, or put like, yeah, there's a 20 or 30% chance that this could eventually lead to human extinction kind of stuff.
Yeah, seriously. Like, we can't keep going down this rabbit hole. I'm going to say something that's going to piss people off if we keep doing it, but like, I just want everybody to sit back and just think like, how does AI benefit me? How is it going to benefit me? What do I think? Why are all these people so heavily invested in AI? I would just like people to just have that conversation. Just think about that. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I looked it up, and it was like, and Elon Musk is far from the only person that's talked about this, but the article headline goes, Elon Musk says there's, quote, only a 20% chance of annihilation with AI. As if that's supposed to comfort me. But it's crazy because it's an arms race. There are no regulations on this.
Yep.
And all these companies are just doing it for corporate profit. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep into all this, but.
And I like what people are saying in the chat too. Like, it has great potential, but nobody's actually going to use it for that. And the other thing, Mike in the Valley said, lots of industries use AI. They absolutely do. Like we at times use AI, and I'm not saying like AI is a bad thing, but like when you have it so unchecked, like you said, there's no regulations. Not to mention, there's a lot of idiots on the internet that now just have complete access to this thing that they don't really understand. They're becoming over reliant on it. I'm thinking about students as well. Obviously, I've already touched on that. It's important. Like, it's important that at least we have this conversation. I tackled it over at dailyfaceoff.com. Jacob linked it. How are we on Family Feud survey responses, Jacob?
We're good. That's why it is not in the description today. We hit 100 overnight, so we are all ready to play the feud tomorrow.
All right, let's end our show on this super chat. It's a $6.99 super chat from Condones in the chat. He said, if Quinn Hughes is traded, who would you consider to be the next captain of the Canucks? There's one right answer to this in my mind. It's Brock Besser. I'm naming Brock Besser the captain. Like, I'm also not doing that. Like, oh, I'm going to rotate A's. I'm going to wait and see. I'm thinking Brock Besser. You pass it down to 24-year-old Braden Coots. There's your boom, done.
I'm waiting, seeing
Medvedev. You're waiting for Medvedev?
Yeah, I'm waiting for Medvedev.
Why are you waiting and seeing? Brock Besser deserves it. Come on.
I don't think there's a clear captain material guy on this roster.
Brock. No, I like Brock.
I don't see. I like Brock a lot, and I think
he isn't like you after hearing this.
I like Brock a lot. Good player, good locker room voice, but he's not the most like, I've always kind of viewed him as he's part of your leadership group, but not necessarily the primary voice or the guy that others look up to, but more he's part of the group.
And I think that needs to change. And I think you're describing Petey. Look up to Petey for what he's doing on the ice, but he's not going to be the guy to speak up.
Yeah, well, and that's why
grow into that, and he has. I think he has grown into it. Like you go.
I mean,
you know what?
Go on. I don't know. Like, I think Hronek's taken similar steps, and dude, I just think I don't think there's a clear captain here. I'm not giving the C to anyone. And
I know you're not saying name Hronek the C. I know that's not what you're saying. But like, if you wear a letter, let alone the C, like, you're out there. Well, you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be out there. You're supposed to be out there speaking almost every night. Like, Brock can handle that. Brock can do that. Obviously, Hronek can't. I don't know. I think Brock's the one. I think Brock's the good guy for it. Myers getting some love in this conversation as well. I would have Brock. I think Brock's kind of like a career Canuck, and I'd also say this. There's something to be said that they've lost the Sedin flavor in that locker room. It certainly feels that way. And there's only one guy in that room right now who played with the Sedins. You want to get him back. You want to get the culture set. You want to get it back on track. Get Brock Besser. That's your guy.
We'll see. I'm more in, I'd rather wait at least a year or two to see who emerges. If there is a guy that is captain material. I mean, hey, who knows? It could be Gavin McKenna in 2-3 years.
That's why I saw on some of our other platforms here people saying Myers because he's only got a few years left. I mean, if Myers plays 3 more years as your captain and retires, then yeah, maybe your first round pick from this year or a first round pick from last year might be ready to take over as captain. So there you go. All
right. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. Jacob, what did I say yesterday? Just make sure you write this down.
I've got it.
Oh,
you took the Raptors plus 175 in the NBA Cup quarterfinal.
And
without RJ Barrett, who's been injured for the last 4 games, didn't go so well. With RJ Barrett, they've been one of the best teams in the NBA this season. Without RJ Barrett, they are 2-6 now because they lost last night. And Jalen Brunson had a very good game for the Knicks. So he had 35 points, 4 assists, and the Knicks won. So there you go.
It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Damn it. All right. Well, I know what I'm taking tonight. tonight, Timmy D and the San Antonio Spurs are back in action. So is Harrison Barnes. He hurt us last time, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it tonight because Harrison Barnes over 2.5 total threes made. He hit 4 last game. You can get the over at plus money. We're looking for a plus money bet. We're not taking it under. We're going to get a plus money bet to get us right here. Plus 145 odds. You can get that right now at Bet365. Harrison Barnes over 2.5 threes made. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Do you like my HB bet, Harm?
We'll see. We'll see. I thought you were first going to go Spurs money line, and I was going to ask you if Wemby's playing.
No.
If you get this one wrong, I'm going to have to call a timeout, and we're going to have to get you back on the hockey bets before we throw you back out on the hardwood.
Sure. How old is Harrison Barnes? He's only 33. Holy cow. Must have been a rookie when I was like watching the league. Anyways, all right, cool. Anything else from either of you?
Nope.
All right. Then we will close it out there. For my co-host, Harmon Dial, our technical producer, Jacob Lazar. My name is Jacob Pedrelli. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Family Feud Thursday. Game Preview Thursday. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.